Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Living with a Toy Collector. Today, I found one of my many random gems, and one of them is the 1990's Mondo Gecko. Now, I've been meaning to repackage him because the original bag that I put him in is kind of starting to fall apart. So this is a good opportunity for me to take a look at it, take him out of the bag, and then repackage him to keep him safe in the future. So let's take a look. Alright, so here he is in all his glory. He is still intact and in the card, and I gotta be honest, I don't even remember how on earth I ended up with this figure. I have to figure it out, but I've had this for well over a decade, and it's still cherry. The card is still holding really strong. I kept it in a dry AC environment, so there is minor damage in the corner, but the figure's still perfectly intact and all the pieces are still in it. Now, this was released back in the 1990s, and you can see here's the original card in the back. You can see all the original figures. There it is, Mondo Gecko, right there. And this is a pretty neat figure. Like I said, he's just kind of so random. And if you know anything about Mondo Gecko, his backstory is all over the place, depending on where you read about him or how you saw him the first time. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at Mondo Gecko. Look at Mondo Gecko. His story is not very deep. Like, this is literally the whole paragraph you see on the webpage. Mondo Gecko is Mutant Gecko, who is friend of the Ninja Turtle, has a seal skateboarding. He was created by Ryan Brown. That is it. And the reason for that, honestly, is because it just depends at what time did you encounter Mondo Gecko. So, you remember the kids' TV show, at one point, like, that he was the turtle's friend, but then at one point, like, Michelangelo was having, I vaguely remember this, he was having these weird nightmares, and then he kept dreaming about this gecko, and it turned out that, I guess, in the ooze, the turtles weren't the only one, so Master Splinter accidentally oversaw the amount of animals that were in the ooze and missed the gecko, and the gecko got picked up by somebody else and raised by somebody else. So it's like their long-lost brother, and then if you go into, like, the comics, like, he was a human who happened to have a gecko pet, and then he got splattered by the ooze, and he became a gecko himself. I don't know. It just depends on which story you're reading. There's not a lot of continuity with this character. Anything that's consistent is that he's a gecko and he skateboards. That is about it. Now you can see right here there's different versions of the geckos. So this is, each one of these are heavily reminiscent of each decade that were created. So this is clearly very 1990s. Look at that rad look to him. And then right here you have, like, you know, early 2000s. And then this is more modern, where it's got a very cartoony look to the character. And this is like post-Gorilla. So you can see, like, it's got a lot of the modern art influences on it. And depending, again, when you encounter him, either he wants to help the turtles or he's first a bad guy, and then later on he flips and he becomes friends with the turtles, and it just depends what storyline you're looking at. So this is how I remember him the first time. Now this right here came out in 2012 and is a very, very different look. They went for an actual gecko look. And this came out in 2012. In 2012, I was adulting. I was doing other things. I could not watch the show. I'm now watching Netflix and catching up to some of these older, some of these newer variations, and some of them are interesting. Some of them are kind of meh. I did like the new TMNT, the last one that came out, with their actual teenagers. I'm not too thrilled about the April O'Neil design. They made her a little too spastic, but I'm not the demographic. But, you know, that was my only complaint about it. I just didn't dig the new April very much. But the rest of it was pretty cool. And then right here, video game characters, you know, you have closer to the original version, and then this is closer to the 2012 version. And this is the one from the movie, which has a really artistic look to the character, which, to be honest, it kind of didn't bother me because it fit the style of the show. It had a really artsy-fartsy, very cartoony kind of look, but as you can see, he has changed a lot throughout the decades. Now they do have on this page, and I will post it down here. They have a series of all the toy versions of this. Now, here's one that I tell folks to be careful when you're picking up the Mondo figure, because they did do a reprint back in 2023, and I seen some folks trying to pass the 2023 version as the vintage one, and you could tell by the skateboard. You know, the skateboard on this one is kind of like a purplish color, versus if you go back to the one that I have, it is a greenish color, and it's the one that I just show you guys. You also don't have Nickelodeon put on it. Nickelodeon was not in the picture back then, so it was like, I think Nickelodeon was just launching, or it was about to launch, and then from later on it became more of an IP of Nickelodeon for the distributor. So you can see later on there's always Nickelodeon put on it. So yeah, so that's that. So his story, not very deep and extremely inconsistent. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna end the video today. Like I said, this is just me going through my collection. I'm not gonna sit here and give you all the history on these toys, because there are tons of YouTubers that already do that. This is just me sorting through and sharing my stuff with folks. I'm still kind of 50-50 on him, whether to sell him or not. I have kept him in immaculate condition as best as I can for, you know, this is 25 years old. I want you to let that sink in. It's 25 years old, and the worst thing I have is some car damage. So I'm going to repackage him in another, like, you know, airtight bag, so that way he maintains his condition. But I'm kind of 50-50 whether to get rid of him or not, because he is cool. He is, you know, from my childhood. But I know somebody out there, you know, is probably missing him in this collection, and they would probably love to have him more than I do. So again, this is one that I'm kind of on the fence on at the moment, if that makes any sense. But if I do post it, you know, maybe I'll post something. It's like, hey, I'm posting it for sale, come get him. But for right now, he's kind of 50-50. I'm just more worried about making sure it stays safe and airtight and mold free, because we are in the South. And you know anything about the South, it is extremely humid, to the point that I have a dehumidifier in my house, because it is just that humid in Texas. It's pretty bonkers. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this content. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.